Hello, my name's Erica, and I wanted to tell you about the Art Steps exhibition that I made earlier this year. We had been intending to install an exhibition in Hastings Museum in a small gallery space on the first floor. The exhibition's called Looking at Things, and it was exploring the engagement that people have when they see an object that they really love. It was a very intimate exhibition in a very small space with very few items. And on the 4th of January, we had a Zoom meeting to start planning it. And it became apparent that the museum would not be reopening and we would not be able to install our exhibition. So Philip Hadland at the museum said to me, there's a piece of software that you could have a look at called artsteps.com, and you could build a virtual exhibition. And I had to think about it. I went and explored the piece of software and decided that it would be worth trying to find a way of producing a digital exhibition, which obviously in no way could be the same as our small intimate exhibition with real objects, but we managed to translate it. One of the things which was going to be important for our exhibition was to, in order to engage very closely with individual objects, I decided that I had to find a way of hiding the object until you actually got really close to it to look at it. And if you see over here, I have what I call the kind of screen shelf. And the idea was that these would be put on the wall of the exhibition. And as you walked along the corridor towards the object, it would only be when you got very, very close to it that you could see what the object was inside and have a very close engagement with it. Obviously, that's not quite possible in a digital exhibition, but I found a different way of working with it. And if I share my screen with you, I will quickly show you the Art Steps software and then play through the exhibition tour, which includes audio from the organisers at Hastings and Bexhill Mencap, from our mentees from the mentoring scheme at ExploreTheArch, and also from museum staff, because we decided that we could expand the exhibition and ask the museum staff to choose items that they liked from the museum collection. So here is the Art Steps software. I'll very quickly go through it with you. It's very simple CAD software. The first stage when you build your exhibition is to define the space, and you literally have two tools, one for building walls and one for putting doors in. And rather than having a corridor which was 2 meters wide by about 24 meters long, I had to build something on a larger scale. These screens with the eyes on are my equivalent to the little cardboard screen shelves. And each one of those is 3 meters wide by 4 meters tall if we were in the real world. The next stage of the process is to choose the colours of your walls, and then you can add and place your items. And you can see that I've imported the different objects into this little library, and you can then place them on the walls. The fourth stage is that you can actually plan a guided tour, and you can include audio on the tour. You can also have labels with audio so that you can explore through the exhibition on your own. But I decided that it made sense to have a guided tour through the exhibition. And I'm just going to publish it. And put the preview on. Software does take a little bit of time to load. I really like the idea of having the screens with the eyes in, and I think that the kind of the lack of ceiling and the blue sky showing through adds to the slightly surreal flavour of the exhibition. So here we go, looking at things. I hope you enjoy it.
Stop right there. There are so many things to look at in the museum that it can all seem too much to process during one visit. Consider this gallery a decompression chamber, a space to rest your eyes and to clear your mind. There are only a few items in the gallery. Each one is someone's favourite object. The exhibition is an exploration of how we look and what is ignited when we gaze upon something that resonates with us. Explore the Arch's investigation into what objects attract us started with a selection of 20 items from Teddy Tinker's Emporium. The active arts students at Hastings and Bexhill Mencap were asked to choose an item and draw and make models from it. 6 of the objects were very popular, and our exhibition features these and some of the artworks that they inspired. Lockdown 2 began during the exploration. We opened up the invitation to anyone in lockdown to share a photograph of themselves with an item that they cherish. Some of these were included, and some images chosen by museum staff.
A closer look. I wanted to create a film that took a closer look at the objects chosen by the artist, see them from unfamiliar angles and explore the detail, deconstructing the object into texture, colour and shape, really looking at things.
I like this figurine because it reminds me of the old days, and I love the costume. And next year I want to dress up.
The Cavalier figurine inspired Brendan Hopkins to produce a repeat pattern of outlines in bright colours, reminiscent of an Andy Warhol print or modern textile design. Paper collage with ink and crayon, 60 centimetres by 92 centimetres.
In order to make sure that each object in the gallery is seen in isolation, they're hidden behind the large screens with eyes. Photographer Alexander Britell took photographs of the eyes of the Explore the Arch team members.
This glass mouse is actually only 6 centimetres tall and very delicate. Kate Rosie from Teddy Tinker's Emporium said the small glass Mickey Mouse is pre-1950s and may have been bought from a glassmaker on a pier, a popular thing to do if you visited the seaside.
Ian chose Mickey Mouse over all the objects. It came in a little box which he carefully opened to take out the tiny miniature. Ian's beautiful soft use of colour and mark making created this unique cartoon impression.
A ceramic model of Sylvester the cat, about 11 centimetres tall and made by Warner Brothers. Kate Rosie from Teddy Tinker's Emporium says, this salt cellar would have been paired with a Tweety Pie pepper pot, possibly sitting on his birdcage. They were originally produced in the 1960s. Warner Brothers, however, did relaunch them in the late 80s and once again in 2002. This one is from 1989.
Brendan's energy is animated and enthusiastic. He has an amazing natural sense of humour, and it was no surprise that he was drawn towards the cartoon Sylvester Pepperpot. Brendan loved using charcoal to create strong lines of movement and speed on the paper.
The most popular of all the objects that our artists worked with was the ceramic owl string dispenser. Kate Rosie from Teddy Tinker's Emporium says the Tony Raymond owl dates between 1960 and 1979. His pottery was originally in Torquay, established in 1951, later taking over the Babbacombe pottery in 1967.
The owl touched everyone's heart. Such a lovely object. Everyone wanted to create an owl of their own until we had our own parliament of owls. They were everywhere. There was a definite connection for everyone to the objects depicting nature and the natural world, like the owl. As most of the students were shielding due to the pandemic, we packed up owls and paints for them to be finished in their homes and then collected for the exhibition. They feel like old friends now.
The museum has an excellent collection of historical and contemporary ceramics. This green jug in the shape of an owl was made at Rye Pottery and is on display in the ceramic gallery.
The staff room. In the room to the right, members of museum staff have chosen objects within the museum collection that mean something special to them. If the door is shut, click on it to get access.
The staff room. We can have just as strong a connection with historical artefacts as with our own treasured possessions. The staff at Hastings Museum and Art Gallery have handpicked their favourite objects from the museum to add to the collection.
My name's Ben, and I'm the operations coordinator at the museum. I've chosen the Stronghold, which is a wood engraving by Marguerite Bailey. It shows a town surrounded by forest, leading up to the titular stronghold in front of a backdrop of mountains. There are so many tiny details, and it would look great as an illustration in a book.
Hi, my name is Kazina, and I am the retail manager for Hastings Museum. I really like the Inuit children's toys and tiny clothes, which are displayed in our subarctic gallery. I love the fact that they are made from very simple, natural materials, but are still a very true representation of people, animals, and the traditional clothing of the Inuit.
Fossil fish, chosen by Camilla. This fossil fish of the species Schinstia mantelli, Agassiz 1833, was found at Rocanor. It comes from the Cretaceous period and is preserved in rock that is around 140 million years old. Camilla says, it shows just how clever Mother Nature is and how intact it is and the detail preserved in this particular piece. I like all the fossils in the museum.
Never have I seen such an inimitable panorama depicted on a utilitarian item. The cat looks like it's been caught on its way to be mischievously disruptive. The elaborate process to create Talavera pottery is juxtaposed by the simplicity of its function. I love the thought of someone in the 17th century using it to enjoy their drink of choice.
Hello, my name's Phil, and I look after the natural science collection at the museum. One of the objects is this stingray, and it was caught on a dab hook off Hastings Pier on 17th of July 1910, so it's over 100 years old. I didn't know that you could get stingrays off the coast of Hastings, and I wonder if they're still found here. I really like this object as it seems to have a personality, and it is still very lifelike. And I also really like the old label, which is on the underside.
Hello, I'm Eleanor, and I look after the social history and world cultures collections at the museum. These figures are some of my favourite things in the collection. They're clay figurines from India, made in the 1800s. I like the fact that they're models of ordinary people, not kings and queens. When I discovered them in the store, it was like opening a box and finding an Indian village frozen in time as everyone was going about their business. The bright colours have survived incredibly well, but the figures are very fragile and some have been damaged over the years. Somehow this fragility makes me feel extra protective of them. Whoever made the figures had obviously observed everyday life in India, but we don't know who that was or why they made them. Could they have been souvenirs for European tourists? Were they made to celebrate the vibrancy of Indian street life? Or more disturbingly, to demonstrate the inferiority of Indian ways of life compared to the Europeans who were working within the official structures of the British Empire? There are more of these figures on display in the Upper Durbar Hall. Have a look when you next visit the museum.
Hi, my name is Charlotte and I work with school groups visiting the museum and learning about our collections. The object I picked for looking at things is this Roman beaker. It features a frieze of a hound chasing a hare. It's nearly 2,000 years old and was given to the museum in 1936. I always wonder about the artist that made it and what kind of people it belonged to.
A pair of child's hobnailed workhouse boots issued to orphans in the 1940s. Martin, the museum technician, chose these. He said, "I'm struck by the quality of the boot's construction, built to last. It would be fairly common for children in poverty to go unshod in all weathers. I wonder how grateful a child would have been to receive a pair of little boots. I often think about them as I pass the remains of the workhouse in Frederick Road."
Hello, this is Charlotte, the Museum and Schools Officer from Hastings Museum. One of the objects I picked for looking at things was this tiny turtle skeleton. It's so helpful to be able to show school groups an example of a living fossil. Versions of this little turtle that are still swimming around in the sea are extremely similar to those that were alive at the time of the dinosaurs. He was a little bit worse for wear, so he's been lovingly restored recently by a local ethical taxidermist, Jasmine Miles Long.
This gold-coloured cat is only about 5 centimetres tall, and it was very popular with both Brendan and Marcus. Kate Rosie from Teddy Tinker's Emporium says, "This gold-coloured cat figure, not brass, is fairly modern, around 1980s to 1990s. Cats of all descriptions are always popular collectible items. This one is particularly good quality, and small enough to easily find a space for."
Both Marcus and Brendan were drawn to the golden cat, and they enjoyed the feel of it in their hands, the weight and how shiny it was. We did some sketches and made a stencil. Marcus loved the gold and silver metallic paints. He applied the paint really thickly on paper. It took an age to dry. He then cut it up and collaged the twin golden cats.
Quite a few of the Active Arts students chose the potpourri pot to work with, some created paintings whilst the others worked on models using papier-mâché and then painted the cut-out flowers. There are still many cut-out flowers which haven't been used. Ian was able to finish one of the models at home whilst shielding, but others sadly remain unfinished.
It was when I was out walking one day when I suddenly realised what my treasured object was. A package of accounts books from 1950 to 1966, carefully kept by my mother and rescued as a brown paper package when she went into a care home. Thinking about it brought tears to my eyes for all sorts of reasons I can't easily explain. My parents moved into a caravan when they got married, with a dog, a shotgun, and a few orange boxes. People ridicule keeping careful accounts these days, but times were different then. The package isn't displayed in my house, but in my head, or perhaps in my heart.
This top hat belongs to Erin Brooks-Doolan, who is on the Explore the Arch mentoring scheme. She said, "I've always found top hats to be magical, classy and fun. My hat was a gift that I've loved so much that I incorporated it into my brand."
Jill Napier contributed a historic find to the Lockdown Looking at Things exhibition. She said,
"Here I am holding a child's leather boot, probably Victorian. It's so warm that there are holes in the sole and dried mud still clings to the bottom. I look at it every day. It usually sits under a glass dome together with a tiny worn Victorian toddler's shoe. They were both found in a hole next to the fireplace, and they continue to exercise their protective magic over us. When we go, they will stay. I love this continuous thread to the past.
We would love you to share a photograph of you with the object that makes you feel special. Take a selfie with it and hashtag it with hashtag lockdown looking at things and share it on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. Thank you.
And that's the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed our little exhibition. Was really amazing that the little piece of software, Art Steps, enabled us to share an exhibition that we'd planned with people and to do it in a way which was totally safe. You could look at the things, you couldn't touch them, you couldn't get COVID, but you could hear the stories that people told us about them. And I thought that was one of the real benefits of changing our mode of presentation and using this very simple but effective digital tool to tell people stories about the objects that they loved. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.